All right, I want to talk about this moment that occurred on the channel the other day during my interview with Donald Crease. I said this, and I think we sort of live in a time where it's very easy to sort of connect a disagreement on policy or how you implement something with just saying someone else is a bad person, right? And I
Sure.
don't want to get into that kind of like quagmire of a space. I mean, it's something that I tend to try to impress upon folks is that even if you have fundamental disagreements with somebody about a particular issue, it's important to understand what you're actually talking about and whether or not you can really actually point to those issues and say, okay, well, this is actually making you somewhat of a deplorable human. I think it's important for people to understand that this might seem like I'm co-signing or endorsing a type of capitulation, as I would consider it to be, towards more centrist positions that would result in really piecemeal and ultimately detrimental policies towards the vast majority of people that are trying to make a living and survive in this country and in this state. And that's not what I'm trying to advocate for in any way, shape, or form. What I'm trying to point out is that in certain situations, you need to sort of know your audience, right? You need to understand that if you're speaking with somebody who has fundamental disagreements with you, your goal should be to lead them to a position that allows for you to fully agree and create some sort of pathway forward that's fair and equitable to everybody. Now, there might be and often are a lot of situations where that's just not something that can happen. At which point, it is incumbent upon you as a person to call those moments out for what they are. If somebody is being truly detestable and disgusting when it comes to their ability to care for other folks, then that needs to be addressed directly. It's how that works. There's no, it's a non-starter to be supporting and endorsing policies and legislation that will ultimately revoke the rights of everyday working people, regardless of their gender, their class, their race, what have you. Any identity based things should be completely set aside. What we're talking about here is the well being of all people. And if somebody is fundamentally trying to separate good people from bad people based off of some completely absurd, unfounded criteria that needs to be addressed, full stop. I personally believe in something like let's take universal healthcare, for example. I don't care that my enemies might have healthcare. If my enemies or my opponents have universal healthcare services, that's only good for me. It doesn't matter. And to say, well, I want to deny the right of those people that disagree with me to a thing that I advocate for, I'm abdicating my responsibility to my own ideals. And that would make me disgusting. So it's important to actually engage in self-examination when you're engaging in more intricate topics and discussions related to how we get things done. If we're going to talk about something like Israel and Palestine, there's no debate. We have a plethora of footage and photos of just people trying to get food that have been corralled into functionally kill boxes and then are being shot at by both Israeli and American contractors and soldiers just simply to get food. That's untenable. And then you have people like Pete Buttigieg saying dumb stuff like this.
So much of this is complicated. I think that we, as Israel's strongest ally and friend, you put your arm around your friend when there's something like this going on and talk about what we're prepared to do together.
Do you think it's time to recognize a Palestinian state?
I think that that's a profound question that arouses a lot of the biggest problems that have happened with Israel's survival, Israel's right to survival.
That's entertaining. Exactly the type of nonsense that I want to challenge here. I find this type of rhetoric from liberals to be just as detestable as disgusting perspectives and approaches that I see coming from conservatives when it comes to this foreign nation. We need to be able to address this all simultaneously. And this is honestly part of the reason why Democrats have a even lower rating in terms of polling numbers than Trump does. That's just how that is. Because these people aren't actually fighting against anything. They're doing a middle of the road style thing. And what we've got now is we have essentially two parties in the United States that argue for the same thing. And I also brought this up in my interview with Donald Creese. Our senators from this state are two, I think they occupy the number 2 and number 3 slots for senators that have voted in favor of Trump policy. What I didn't specify is that these are Democratic senators that are voting for Trump policies. So when you hear the term uniparty, right, that's actually really accurate. There is no left party in this country. There's just not. There is a corporate centrist party, and then there is a right-wing party. And when I say right-wing, I mean significantly further right than most of what we had had within the past half a century. Even Reagan would look at some of this stuff and question it. And that's saying a lot because that's the man who essentially established trickle-down economics, which has caused the significant rot of our economic system as it stands today. It's what it is. And I'm sorry if people are offended by this, by my direct call out on these particular issues, but it's important to me to not be sitting here and advocating for extensive capitulation to both sidesism when realistically that's not getting any of us anywhere. In order for us to be a healthy, functioning society, we need to be able to support the lower classes of society, the working class, the struggling, because those are the people that do the hard and unglamorous jobs that allow us to have all of our creature comforts. If we abandon that, we are going to completely take the foundation out from under the house. I don't know what else to say about it. If somebody is focusing on doing that, that needs to be directly addressed. Now, for somebody like Donald Creese, he's in a particularly precarious position and needs to work with what he has. Now, that doesn't mean that he's immune from criticism, potentially, on specific issues. And I don't necessarily fully agree with his don't mass up New Hampshire perspective, but that's okay. That's a small disagreement over a very non-consequential problem. So it would be preposterous for me to completely unload on him about anti-urbanization and things of that nature. It just doesn't make sense within the context. You need to be able to identify who can be your ally on what issues and who can help you achieve the goals that you are trying to achieve. You know, Michael Brooks, the late Michael Brooks, used to say that the left needed to look more at sources like Machiavelli. And I think that's actually true.
I want the left to have Machiavelli so that we can have the strategy, the ruthlessness, the clarity to actually win these battles and be ruthless with institutions. And then I want us to learn how to be really kind to each other, welcoming of a broad set.
What he meant by that was to be able to examine and pull the levers of power more appropriately and utilize them in a more subversive way. And that has value. I also think that when you see a lot of leftists arguing for positions like we need to be creating a left-wing Tea Party, that plays directly into that particular statement and strategy. And that is going to be a method by which we are able to fully realize new forms of left-wing power within this country. Because realistically, there has not been, maybe since FDR. We just have to be able to strategically choose the moments at which we are incisive and on the attack, and then moments where we are calculated and measured and perhaps even more clandestine in our strategies. There needs to be a degree of nuance there. And I'm not advocating for nuance pervertry here, because I think that that gets into strange debate lord territory that reduces things to preposterous hyperbole and gets us absolutely nowhere. Your responsibilities to have these rights is to have the wherewithal and the ability to self-examine enough to know when you use your words and when you use another tool. If this is something that we can't start wrapping our heads around as folks on the left, when we're trying to create a fully fleshed out understanding of what we need to be doing and the direction we need to be going in, we will continue to fail.